Last day we learned about surface of the moon and phases of the moon. Today we will learn about solar eclipse, lunar eclipse and landing on the moon. So what is solar eclipse and lunar eclipse? During a special day of new moon, this solar eclipse occurs. During this time, the sun, the moon and the earth comes in a straight line, and during this time the shadow of the moon falls on the earth, and in this condition you can see two different places. First, the dark zone is called umbra and the less dark zone is called penumbra. If anyone wants to watch this solar eclipse, then if he or she observe the solar eclipse from penumbra and from umbra, two different things are observed. First, if a person observe the solar eclipse from this penumbra, what he or she will observe? That the some portion of the sun is covered by the moon. This is called partial solar eclipse. That is, during this time all the portion of sun is not covered by the moon. For this reason, a complete solar eclipse is not possible to see from those zones, that is from penumbral zone. But if someone observe this solar eclipse from this position, he or she will observe that the complete sun is covered by moon. That is called total solar eclipse. Next, lunar eclipse. So during the revolution of moon, in a special night of full moon, the sun, the earth and the moon comes in a straight line, and the shadow of earth falls on the moon, and then lunar eclipse occurs. So in this case we also observe two different things. First, when the moon at this penumbra zone and when the moon is at umbra zone. So first, when the moon at this penumbra zone, we see the partial lunar eclipse, and when the moon is at the dark zone, that is at umbra zone, we see total lunar eclipse. When the moon at this penumbra zone, the shadow of earth not falls completely on the moon. Due to this reason, if someone from this position observe the moon, he or she can observe the moon partially. For this reason, they can see moon partially, that is called partial lunar eclipse. And if someone observe the moon from this position when the moon is at umbra zone, then the shadow of the earth falls on the complete moon. For this reason, if someone observe the moon from this position, during that time a total lunar eclipse is observed. During every new moon day or during every full moon night, the solar eclipse and lunar eclipse does not happen, because the orbit of the moon is tilted with respect to the orbit of the earth. As they are not in a same plane, for this reason it's not possible that during every new moon day or during every full moon night the sun, the moon and the earth comes in a straight line. Clear? For this reason it's not possible that in every new moon or every full moon we will observe that eclipse. So here in our book, lunar eclipse written as that lunar eclipse occurs when the earth comes in between the sun and the moon. And look at the picture given below. We already observed that. And the earth creates a shadow on the moon, and the moon is not visible to us. Obviously, as the moon is this zone, so the shadow of the earth falls directly on the moon. For this reason, moon is not visible to us. This is how a lunar eclipse occurs, and lunar eclipse can only occur during a full moon. You must have to remember that lunar eclipse can only occur during a full moon, but not in every full moon. Next, solar eclipse. Solar eclipse occurs when the moon comes in between the sun and the earth. That is, moon is between the earth and the sun, and when the earth, moon and sun comes in a straight line. So the moon casts shadow on the earth, and the sun is not visible to the people living in this shadowy region. That is, from this position or from those positions. We already learned about it, and this is how a solar eclipse occurs. Solar eclipse can only occur during a new moon, and this time also not in every new moon. An eclipse may be total or partial. When the sun or the moon is completely hidden, it is the total solar or total lunar eclipse. Part of the sun or moon is visible, it is partial solar or partial lunar eclipse. We all observe this, and there is an interesting fact that solar eclipse always occurs 2 weeks before or after a lunar eclipse. You can remember this fact. Next, landing on the moon. So, man first landed on the moon in an American spacecraft named Apollo 11. So, Apollo 11 was the first spacecraft to carry man from our Earth to the moon. And Apollo 11 was launched from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, USA. So it carried 3 American astronauts, Neil Armstrong, Edwin Aldrin and Michael Collins. So you must have to remember the name of the 3 astronauts who were in the spacecraft. Next, on 21st July 1969, Neil Armstrong created history and became the first man to set foot on the moon. So who was the first astronaut to set the foot on the moon? It is Neil Armstrong, who set his foot on the moon for the very first time. And it was a great day for mankind. So Neil Armstrong and Edwin Aldrin stayed for about 2.5 hours on the moon, and a sample of the rocks and soils have been brought to the earth for further studies. So to find out the minerals present on the surface of the moon. And they also that the moon surface is uneven and rough. It is not as good as our earth. So this is the end of the chapter.